It's still kind of funny to me that Planet of the Giants was a 4-parter, but then they just decided, and like
we can do it. We can do it in 3. We can do it with 3, and we're gonna put Mission to the Unknown in there.
Yeah, I think it was like. I think.
Do
it
we
was
know
like
the name of the city that this is set in?
I don't
think
believe
they
so.
ever name it.
I don't think they ever named it.
You mean
Yeah,
this week's episode?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never named it.
Yeah.
It was some freaking Aztec city somewhere
Minneapolis.
in Mexico.
Okay.
It's just kind of like, yes, the Aztecs. Just never. They never give any further detail.
Just,
Which I
the
guess is
Aztecs.
Probably, it's like probably for the better, given how easily they could have fucked it up.
Oh, they
So
fucked up
just
plenty,
made
but
something- Oh well, yeah.
Oh, that's
It's
right.
like-
I was trying to do a fact check, but I found reviews saying that they didn't do their fact checking well, but I couldn't find a good source to actually fact check myself.
Mm.
oh no, I
mean-
just knew based on they got some things right that most
Mhm.
people wouldn't. Like the
is that
fact that
segment highlighted? Is that
I hadn't decided whether I was going to do a whole section on it or not.
okay?
I was still debating that.
Mm.
Did you have individual elements?
Not really. I did see one. I saw one article saying that the chocolate thing was bunk, but I couldn't actually find a historical source to say that.
Well, first of all, what the Aztecs called hot chocolate and what we call hot chocolate, 2 entirely different motherfuckers.
I'm
'Cause,
guessing,
mind you,
the
where
main
they- well, they had-
difference is the amount of sugar and the amount of dairy.
Yeah, because the Aztecs really didn't have much of either.
Right.
It wasn't the Aztecs that had cane sugar. And, well, I think they might have had goat or llama milk or something like that. I'm actually not sure what creatures were common to Mexico.
Either way, it's only really Euro-Americans that are known for drinking milk and using it like as a staple. And I'm kind of starting to wonder where that came from, because the only thing I ever find is that people think it's really weird that white Americans drink so much milk.
Well, I know they at least had cheese. Cheese is pretty universal.
Yeah.
But mind you, what they make it from are completely different sources.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't remember if there was a Mexican bovid or camelid that they would have gotten it from.
I would assume those goats or something, but I can't say for
unless-
sure either.
If the longhorn wasn't genetically engineered, they should have had those, because Texas was part of the Aztec Empire.
Longhorns are
It was
based
part of the
off
northern part anyway.
are based off of cattle, which are an import from Europe.
Yeah, I was
Okay,
gonna
so
say,
they were-
normal
So they were
cows
more
imported.
genetically. So they were
Yeah.
more like genetically adapted for the territory than native.
Yeah, because the
Okay.
native thing of North America was the buffalo,
Yeah,
but
that was
that
the
was
closest.
far north of Mexico.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was way too far
noticeably
away.
north.
Anyway,
Just
are we
like they
ready?
had sugarcane in North America, but not near Mexico.
Are we ready? Are we
And
good?
they're a little too far north
I'm
to
ready.
have a llama or alpaca.
As these two continue to go on about herds.
I'm ready.
Yes. All right, are we good?
Yeah, you can
I
go
think we
ahead.
are.
Go ahead and start
Good.
this. I'm going to go ahead and try to figure this out.
Why
while
don't
you're
Why
running
don't
the
we
intro.
what's it called? Talk into it? I don't know.
We'll figure it out when we get there.
No, I meant never mind. It's irrelevant. Go ahead.
Whatever. Starting in 5, 10, 9, 8. All right.
Welcome, citizens of Aslan, reincarnated gods, and the Doctor's first on-screen wife, to episode 352 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 13th of May, 2020, and featuring the Aztecs.
Wait, are we? Is it the 352nd or 353rd?
I
think
that
it's
I'm not sure, because I think
it's-
we forgot to put the writer in, which I believe his name is
because somebody
Luca Roddy.
updated that section on me, so it is the 353rd.
Well, we
Shame.
bollocked that up. Yeah, we're due. John Lucarati is the writer of this episode, and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Carol Ann Ford as Susan, Jacqueline Hill as Barbara Wright, and William Russell as Ian Chesterton. I am Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and I successfully scarfed down my buffalo wings before the start of the podcast. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
Yes, the Doctor is a bigamist, at least 3 times over and counting.
Mad Matt Winchell.
I drink crystal water and try in hopes of getting back on this.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Hello to you all.
And Thomas Fireheart.
God, I feel like I had a joke about like that Nickelodeon show, but I forgot.
What Nickelodeon show?
Legends of the Hidden
Are they-
Temple.
That.
Ah! I had repressed that show.
Ha!
Ugh, sparkling
I
water's terrible. Tastes like tin can.
Well, if you're drinking it in a can, yeah. I mean, I freaking homemade Crystal Light. So how's everybody's week been?
The week has been doing okay.
Adding flavor is better. Been alright.
Yeah,
Nothing too eventful either direction.
I'm like 99% graduated. I'm just finishing up an independent study, which is kind of weird because we already know we're going to keep working on it after grades go through and after I'm officially a bachelor. So it's kind of in a weird spot of, I guess I'm graduated. I'm not going to have a graduation ceremony, so
Hate to correct you, Bill. I'm pretty sure most of us here, except for Randy, are bachelors.
I didn't say you weren't. I'm just saying I'm going to be. I'm just saying I officially become one on Sunday, but I'm not actually having a ceremony.
You only recognized it on Sunday?
You know, it still blows my mind that of my friends, I'm the only one that's in a relationship.
At
it's
least
not
as far
from
as
lack of
mine-
trying. I just haven't had any luck.
I'm just too much for them.
I mean, when this happened to me,
I-
at least most of my gaming group was in relationships, and now
I-
most of them have broken up with their significant others. So
I should point out that the bachelor I'm talking about is the anglicization of baccalaureate and not the actual. For all I know, they have the same root word. But
It felt like it took you a while to realize what we're talking about there, Bill.
yeah, we took that and ran sideways with it deliberately.
I was kind of trying to steamroll past Matt's comment, but then Randy specifically mentioned
Nope.
relationships.
Not happened to Bill.
That's-
You can't
yeah.
run that joke.
Yep. I was
Like,
going
for
to
all I
continue
know,
with it.
for all I know, I'm the only one in this room without a degree. I don't know.
Oh no, I have absolutely no degree.
I went to
Well, he said
I
except
went
for
to
Randy, so that would've
animation.
fit.
I went to animation, dropped out of animation, went to graphic design, dropped out of graphic design, picked up a job to pay off my bills, and that happened
Yeah.
and ended in 2009.
I knew
so
you had gone to school. I didn't know the full details.
Oh, I've gone to school too. I just never finished.
Yeah, I
'cause
think
I learned a
think you
few
had
things,
mentioned-
but mostly what I
I
learned
think
was
you
that it
had
was a waste of
mentioned not
time.
finishing in my presence, but
no, my problem is I kept running out of money.
Oh.
You know,
Money.
they don't let you attend classes if you haven't paid your bills.
Well, that's not fair.
So I don't know if I mentioned this when I first went back to school. I probably did, but one of the reasons I went to school in the first place was that I realized that student loans, even though I would have to pay it back eventually, were actually giving me more money per month after tuition was already paid than I would have made if I just kept working full time. And the one way I could afford to keep my apartment without, begging for the landlord every month was to go back to school. So it was almost the opposite of running out of money, to the point where like my income was student loans to a decent percentage.
I don't know. My student loans were never big enough. I could afford the class or I could afford the books. I could never afford both.
No.
My student loans were big enough to at least afford stuff I needed for the first like 2 or so years I was actually going to school, and then it's like, yeah, I need to get a job because this ain't doing much for me. I'm realizing that I need to work on stuff when I actually have free time, and I'm actually able to work on this stuff, because trying to go to school for it is actually useless.
I think the state schools here were partially set up with the idea that if you needed to take student loans, they would be enough to pay for a dorm room. And of course, I don't dorm because I had my mother and sister living with me. But that same money went into my rent.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's the thing. That's the thing here, Bill. They took that into account when they calculated my budget that I lived with my mother.
And and I'm guessing at the time you were too young to be considered independent.
I was 19.
Yep. So yeah, in that, if you're under 25, like your parents could have like fucked off to Neverland, and they still count against you and everything.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But I happened to be, or it might be lower than 25, but either way, like I was 25, 26 when I went back to school, so I counted completely as independent.
Whereas I'm over here as a high school dropout.
I technically did too, but then I turned around and got my GED.
Yeah.
Like, I had very valid reasons for dropping out of high school. Like, it's called not dying.
No, yeah, that helps.
When the local gang wants you dead, you tend not to show up, or if you do, you show up at weird times.
Like, the funny thing is I still go like, well, I technically still did 12 years because I repeated year 10 willingly, and then just when I got to year 12, it was like there was like a talk where it was like you'd basically have to repeat year 12, because now it's like you have to get grades good enough to warrant getting a certificate that says yes, you actually did graduate. So I was just like, fuck it, I'm out.
Well, my problem was that high school bored the hell out of me. Because, mind you, this was the same person that would go to his grandmother's house over the summer and would basically read an encyclopedia out of boredom. So I knew history. I knew, physics and math from all this shit. Trying to have these guys repeat this shit at school bored the fuck out of me. Sometimes the class was interesting enough I'd pay attention. My teacher that started our world history with "Welcome to World History," or as I like to call it, 5,000 years of sex and gore. That was an interesting teacher. The guy who sounded like Ben Stein? No.
Yeah. My thing was definitely like I was one of those kids who would get in their report cards a lot. Is like, if he's motivated, he's fine, but he's, whatever.
Yeah, I think one of my best history teachers looked a bit like Conan O'Brien, and when we had our first day of class with him, literally one of the things he did in order to get our attention was literally throw a thing across the room. That wakes up the high school kids real fast.
Most of my reports cards said do not pay attention in class, but tests well.
'Cause he's bored.
Yeah, I would be sitting there daydreaming in class. At least the guy that sounded like Ben Stein one time noticed I had started to doze off, leaning back in my chair, grabbed the trash can and a yardstick, walked up to my desk and banged them together right in front of my head.
Bloody
oh God, I hated that class. I hated that class so much.
I'm just glad that by the time, like, I feel like it was fairly recent that some of the schools in my hometown like Catholic schools had phased out like nuns and sisters and brothers teaching instead, and yeah, they that was the kind of thing where you get like fucking hit with shit. So I'm glad that was phased out.
Oh yeah,
back into
my
those
history
schools.
teacher knew he would get in a lot of trouble if he hit me.
Mm.
But banging a thing in front of my head, that still worked. I was suddenly awake, and I really hated him. But no. So I went to college after I got my GED, and I was doing a couple of parallel courses because algebra was one of my weak spots. Because my algebra teacher was horrible. He was the baseball coach. His idea for teaching was reading us the paragraph in the book and then letting us sit there and try to do these problems on our own.
I was lucky in that my school, it seemed like all of the coaches taught AP classes. So it's like they knew enough to be interesting enough to be able to keep teaching an AP class.
No, this wasn't my luck. Now, science class was occasionally fun, but we blew up the lab way too many times.
Chaos reigns.
No, not us. The teacher blew up the
lab.
Still chaos reigns.
When you sit closest to the door so you don't die, yeah. Anyway, yeah. We should probably get back on track.
Yo.
All right. So tonight's show, we've got birthdays followed by news, and not a lot of news. Hate to say it, there wasn't a lot of news here.
They're still not filming.
Yeah, they're still not filming, and honest to God, it was hard to find anything this week.
Actually, let me just check something, because that actually makes me think of something that might be pertinent that we might not have thought of as Doctor Who news. Yeah. But I do know, I don't remember the details, but they did extend, and there were talks of them not doing this, but they did extend lockdown in the United Kingdom this week. I don't remember. I think it was till the end of June.
Well,
to be honest, I'm not terribly surprised because they're that close to Europe, and there's possibly a lot of people still moving around.
But so that's not technically Doctor Who news, but it does mean that it will be longer before we get substantial Doctor Who news.
Wrong.
Yeah.
That still does not affect filming, because filming doesn't start till September, according to the Balchinian.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't.
Okay, that's confirmed.
That,
so as long as you're allowed
be
to
back
in
to
September,
normal.
it will.
Yeah, that was last week's news.
I mean,
last week's news.
That was before was that the week that I was late?
Yeah, I think it might have been.
Okay. So did he say that the scripts were written?
He said that they're working on the scripts, but they're working on the scripts remotely.
Okay,
and
so they're
normal.
Yeah, so they're just passing them around digitally. It's not stopping them.
They're just passing around digitally, and when they're meeting to discuss it, they're doing it over Skype.
Okay, so they're not just furloughed.
Yeah, no, they're not furloughed.
Yeah, they're not being stopped yet.
They're just it's just filming productions furloughed. But Doctor Who's not scheduled to film until September. Now, the issue is, once the filming furlough ends, there's going to be a whole bunch of productions all wanting to have filming at once.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot more location filming this upcoming season. Because they can...
To keep them off the set and keep them on budget, yeah.
Yeah, to minimize set work.
Although then I also want, at least certain very popular locations, they might be competing with others too. So
very true, but they can usually sandwich around that. And, Doctor Who is a flagship production, so it'll probably have priority.
It'll have priority, plus they can film Doctor Who literally anywhere.
Hollywood has more money. They get priority than BBC.
Yeah, the thing is, though, most of the sound stages are owned by the BBC.
Well, I'm saying like location filming. So like if it comes down to like, although I'm guessing a lot of British productions have more connections in South Africa and stuff like that than
to some degree,
Americans
but
do.
also again, Doctor Who can be filmed anywhere. Rock Quarry, my dude. Rock quarry.
Depends on the story.
Still can happen.
Oh, they're filming here? Okay, we'll go to the U.S. and film.
Half the season is set in northern England.
Oh, in
It's
that
set-
case, they
it-
have all
it's-
of northern England.
It's set in a castle in Scotland.
Well, find yourself a castle. Doesn't you need to be the same one for outdoors and indoors?
Yeah, we'll see.
Shit, it doesn't need to be the same one from scene to scene.
Anyway,
That's
as we're off track
Yeah.
again,
We are
Yes.
tangenting.
anyway, moving on, we have birthdays. The first birthday is on May 7th, and is the birthday of Valentine Dial, who played the Black Guardian in 1978 and again in 1983. He would have been 112, but he died in 1985 at the age of 77. The next birthday is on the 9th. That is the birthday of John Arnott, who played Cardinal Barusa in The Invasion of Time. He would have been 103, but died in 1999 at the age of 82. Next, on the 12th, is the birthday of Catherine Tate, who played Donna Noble in 2006, and again in 2008, and again in 2009. But more modernly is the voice of Magica Dispel in the new DuckTales cartoon, which I'll be talking about later. She turned 52. And finally, on the 13th, today, is the birthday of Zoe Wanamaker, who played Lady Cassandra Delta 17 in 2005 and again in 2006. She turned 71. So happy birthday, Valentine, John, Catherine, and Zoe.
I think Cassandra's an amusing villain.
She was, but they kind of perma-killed her, and
They gave her a good send-off to permanently kill her. Yeah.
but after only 2 appearances, so
Mm-hmm.
she would have been fun to be recurring, but I don't know how many times they could have gotten
Yeah, I
Zoe
don't know how many times you could pull that
Yeah.
because you already used the front and the back half.
I was gonna say, yeah. How many times can you use flayed skin off the same person?
It's the future. It's billions of years in the future. They don't have cloning.
Apparently not.
True.
At least not yet.
Mm. Plus,
If they
can't
do, it's
go back
restricted or
far
something. I
enough
don't know.
and they can't really go back far enough to have it just like, oh, it's back when before that, when she was still a human, because I'm pretty sure they've used the actress for other stuff at least once.
Actually, no. They had her go back in that same episode playing herself
Mm-hmm.
or playing Cassandra. I don't think she's ever played anything else in Doctor Who.
Not that I'm aware of.
No.
Doctor Who,
Let's
Doctor Who.
see.
Hey everybody, it's Doctor Who. He's a doctor, he's a who. Doctor, Doctor Who. Yeah, Doctor Who.
Let's see. 2005 Doctor Who
Like,
Cassandra.
I think she was in Unicorn and the Wasp. I could be wrong.
No, she was not.
I might be
Nope.
mistaking her for a similar.
Nope, she's only credited as
Okay.
2 episodes.
Okay.
And she was never in an original Who, so nope.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, she's always just been Cassandra.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I must be confusing her with an actress that is in Unicorn and the Wasp who has a similar voice.
That's possible. There are people that come from the same region and kind of have the same tone voice.
Anywho.
Yeah. Before that becomes another.
Yeah, before that becomes like the
Side
third
quest.
tangent in less than 20 minutes.
Yeah, we're distracted tonight.
It's because you told us there wasn't a lot of news. It kind of sets the tone of the whole podcast.
Start jingling the keys.
Ooh, shiny
Uh,
syndrome? What? Anyway,
This is Thomas's next piece of news.
yes.
So we go all the way to books because there's nothing else.
There is
Before
nothing
that?
else.
Nothing.
The BBC announced 2 new books to be released in conjunction with the Time Lord Victorious mega crossover event. Doctor Who The Night, The Fool and the Dead by Steve Cole, featuring the 10th Doctor, will be released on the 1st of October, priced at £9.99. Doctor Who All Flesh is Grass by Una McCormack, featuring the 8th, 9th, and 10th Doctors will be released on the 10th of December, also priced at £9.99.
Who they're featuring is based on the pictures on the cover, so that is a educated guess on my part.
Mm.
All I know is I'm not overly thrilled with this whole thing, so. Because it's to learn it all, you are forced to pay attention to mediums you don't usually use, like freaking Escape House.
Mm.
Yeah, this is why I don't like multimedia things, because if you need to look at everything to learn all of it, then it's to get a grasp of it, then it's like, oh, well,
Wait,
that's too much money for me to spend. Bye.
wait for the climax to be a VR game.
Kill me. Just. I'll take a blow and chop my head right here. To coin a phrase from Monty Python.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on to Big Finish, because there is no other news. Trust
Oh
me,
well.
everything else was like a review.
Okay. The Big Finish releases its first audio drama produced entirely since the lockdown began on 23rd of March. Starring Tom Baker, Louise Jameson, and John Leeson, Doctor Who, Shadow of the Sun is essentially a missing person mystery amidst a cocktail party on a luxury space liner. Doctor Who, Shadow of the Sun is now available to buy. You can get it from the Big Finish website as a collector's edition CD, priced at $10.99, or a digital download, priced at $8.99.
Gee, a missing person mystery amidst on a luxury space liner. How many times have we seen this plot line before?
Has Doctor Who done it at least 5 times by now?
At least.
But have they done it with the fourth
Yes.
Doctor?
Yes,
Yes, they
boy.
have.
but not the fourth Doctor and Leela.
I don't know, does Robots of Death count?
No, because that's not a luxury space liner.
I
That's
suppose
a
it's
minor.
not technically a
So-
luxury, although they were fancied up quite a bit.
So we can expect greater amounts of threats and robot sarcasm than the average.
Robot sarcasm and more people
No, I
getting
should
stabbed
say-
by
I should
Leela.
say more robot sassiness than the average murder mystery.
I don't know. I mean, I think the time I remember it was the Doctor and Romana in K9, so. That'd be about the same amount of robot sassiness. We'll see.
Well, see, now he no longer has tracks to keep him from talking. He can be in every scene.
Affirmative.
All right, and the next one.
All right. And the main range production continues as planned. In Scorched Earth, written by Chris Chapman and starring Colin Baker, Miranda Raison, and Lisa Greenwood, the Sixth Doctor, Constance, and Flip find themselves in France at the end of World War II, because that's one story we haven't seen in Doctor Who, is the Doctor going to World War II.
Well-
Constance and Flip believe in opposite sides of the conflict. Who will find out the truth? Doctor Who's Scorched Earth is now available.
I think we lost Bill.
I was about to say,
Bill,
I
come
think I
back,
hear
Bill.
other people. Did we just lose him?
He's now available to own as a collector's edition CD or digital download for just $12.99.
At Bill.
And
Okay.
Bill's left. Hopefully come.
Never
So
mind.
how far into it did I cut out?
I finished it. It was basically you
Like
were
the last
one
line or
sentence
two.
away from finishing.
Okay.
It was you
You
were
were
like
like-
available to own as a cup.
Oh, so
There's
you
a
also
cup.
missed. So you also missed my mention that the CD probably won't ship until the end of the summer.
Yeah, well, until the lockdown's done anyway.
Yep.
Depends. Depends on how much they've already pre-made.
No, they've basically said they've sent their warehouse workers home.
Okay. So they're not moving anything in the warehouse, period. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, they've sent them home for health reasons. And said, yeah, if you buy a CD,
And that's a job you can't do from home.
Yeah. If you buy a CD, don't expect it to be shipped until the lockout ends. Otherwise, you can buy the download, or you're buying a CD comes with the download, and you can get that immediately.
Mhm.
All right. Let's see if your connection stays together for your part of Geek Talk, Bill.
All right. So yes, as my classes have been dying down, I've started binging shows again. One of the first things I've done was to catch up with the final season of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Having followed it from the first season, and I've got to say the final season it had like it was clearly planned as a final season, but I don't think it was all that great. I think it kind of highlighted some of the weaknesses in the show. And
When you're saying the final season, do you mean the previous season, or this season is the final season?
This is the final season.
Okay, I didn't even know it was still going on. I stopped paying attention after the original creator left.
Gotcha. Oh, I was not like I think I might have heard about that, but I think I forgot about it.
That
so
was
I'd have
like
to
way
look.
back
Do you
at like
remember when that
season
was?
3, season 4, somewhere in there.
Okay. So that might have to do with some of my criticisms, and that is that I mean I've started noticing it probably around like season 4 if I really think about it, but I'd have to check. But it's especially apparent here that the class politics of the show have just gotten steadily more pro like upper class highlighting the upper class to the point where they actually cross a picket line like the people of the city are on strike because and they just kind of were like, well, we need this event to happen, so we're going to break the strike by doing this other thing.
Okay.
And that did not sit well with me, but even just from a more general like writing standpoint, they seem to be setting up for like they actually seem to be setting up for like a passing the torch sort of thing, from the main characters of the show to like these students of theirs, and that never pays off.
Well, apparently she left the series during season 2.
Okay.
And then she was replaced by Megan McCarthy, who's been the showrunner for the remaining seasons.
Gotcha. So yeah, I mean some of the if I don't, it's like it's not a huge drop in quality. If you enjoyed seasons like 7 or 8, you probably would still find things to enjoy in season 9. But it did not go out with a bang. I think it went out with a whimper relatively compared to prior seasons.
All right.
Yeah. Is
Happens,
that all you have to
especially
say
for one
about it,
show.
or?
Yeah, I think it is.
Because yeah, it seemed to be after season 2 that the big brony movement kind of died out. Because they were everywhere. Like
I mean,
right
yeah,
after...
and I'm definitely grateful for that because it was definitely tied to some unsavory elements of internet fandom.
Yeah.
Oh no, the unsavory elements never went away. They just
No, but it wasn't
scurried back into
as
the
much in the
shadows.
spotlight, and it wasn't as much associated with simply watching it. Like, I mean, I watch it partially because, I mean, honestly, partially some things I'm not that social of a person and can still benefit from. Partially because it ties, I've always seen kind of a D&D tie-in with the kind of way the characters, they're not technically classed, but they kind of are. And, some of the just fantasy adventure aspects. But, yeah, the brony movement definitely went from people enjoying it to a lot of weird shit that I did not want to be associated with.
But no, I remember watching the first season and thinking, yeah, this is pretty good. Thinking the second season was okay, and then I heard some of the stuff they were doing for season 3, and it's like, no, I'm done now.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so the next thing, going from one cartoon to another cartoon, I've also been having some time and exploiting our year-long subscription to Disney Plus. I was able to watch more of the new DuckTales series. Now, if you recall, I think back in 2017, I did a review based on watching the first episode or two. I have now watched the entire first 2 seasons. And as somebody who watched the original in 87, I both like and dislike what they've done with it. The episodes have become more contiguous, which means everything that's happening in the previous episodes will directly affect the next episode. Like, for example, near the end of season 2, Louis does something. Louis breaks time, forcing them to fix it before they all die. He gets grounded. Next episode, he's still grounded.
Did Dr. Scrooge help fix time?
You mean Uncle Scrooge?
What? Oh, shit. Yes.
Just like-
Wow. Wow.
Freudian
No,
slip,
well,
I guess.
considering the fact
Yeah.
that Scrooge is voiced by David Tennant,
Yeah, that's
It's
what I was trying
understandable.
to subtly reference.
but well, mind you, that episode he makes some comments that I'm wondering if they said cut to his lines. It's like, wow, I've said stuff like this before, but no, it's mostly Louis that has to fix everything, since he's the one that stole Gyro Gearless's time tub. And yeah, that is something from the original DuckTales that they reused.
Yeah, that's where they rewrite history.
But I will say that I've actually watched into season 3, and at this point, they have referenced every original Disney afternoon show. By original, I mean anything that wasn't a cartoon spin-off from a movie.
Even
So-
Schnookums
Quack
and Me.
Attack?
What's that?
And
What was that? What did you say, Bill?
I'm pretty hoping I got the name right. Quack Attack?
Yes. There is a
Yes.
in like the second episode of season 3, Donald makes a wish that transports them into a 90s-esque sitcom. I think it was Quack Pack.
Oh, I just looked up Quack Attack, and that was a show, but not the show I was thinking of.
You're thinking of Quack
Yeah.
Pack.
I think I was
Yep.
thinking of Quack
Mhm.
Pack, and
Yep.
that's why I was like, I hope I got the name right.
And yeah, they make the outfits worn by the triplets are like that. Scrooge's
Nice.
outfit is like his 87 version. It was an interesting little thing. One of the things I really like what they've done in season 2 in particular. Season 1, they start dealing with the legend behind the character. Season 2, you actually finally meet the character of Della Duck. Della Duck has been a behind-the-scenes character since the 1930s. She's the triplets' mother, Donald's sister.
Oh.
And you've seen storylines where he would get a letter from her going like, "Please take care of my boys." Now you meet the character, and she's fairly awesome. And she comes back in the middle of season 2 after having been stranded on the moon for like 10 years. How did she survive? Hyperoxygenated chewing gum invented by Gyro Gearloose. But
Of course.
anyway,
And I bet it lost its flavor immediately.
no, it didn't. It kept getting stronger. It was licorice flavored. She hated it.
Okay.
But it was they have made references from the first episode. They bring up Cape Suzette. Scrooge's plane, the Sun Chaser, looks remarkably like the Sea Duck with a paint job. And later in season 1, they get attacked by the air pirates led by Don Carnage.
Oh
I
boy.
loved the reference.
Nice.
Hated the voice actor for Don Carnage.
Aw.
Because the Don Carnage from like Tailspin had that Fernando, that Spanish voice.
Mm-hmm.
This guy doesn't do that.
Boo.
Ah.
Boo.
Yeah. He doesn't even try. But you meet the first season in particular. The big bad villain is Magica Dispel, voiced by Catherine Tate. And while she's not doing the like Eastern European accent in '87, her version of Magica Dispel is actually pretty badass. She does it more kind of Morgan Le Fay style, this like upper English voice.
Yeah.
Still not recognizable to me as Catherine Tate, by the way, because it's not a lower class English voice. But she is pretty intimidating. The second season. What's that?
Almost wonder if she tried doing something close to the original voice and was just like, "No, this ain't working."
No, don't. Just don't. Yeah. But the second season, basically the big bad is basically moon people, who basically plot to invasion the Earth. And mind you, you have your regular rogues gallery. You've got Ma Beagle and the Beagle Boys, who I didn't like their original outing. They've kind of grown on me. Instead of the version that we used to see where they wore their prison numbers on their shirts, they just wear these shirts with B on them, which I believe is closer to the original comic books. But they've grown on me as incompetence. You've got Scrooge's regular enemy, Flintheart Glomgold,
Which you didn't see much in the cartoon, but I remember him from the comics for sure.
Oh yeah, he's pretty frequent. He might have been turned up a notch or two and made a tad dumber, but he's still amusing. As he's basically plotting every other episode how to kill Scrooge. You've got a new character, Mark Beeks, who's kind of based on like a CEO of Google or Amazon type person, who's basically his main thing is he's infatuated with internet popularity, and basically schemes to be the next big thing by inventing the next big thing, I stealing it from Gyro Gearloose or whatever. He's basically a nuisance. If anybody remembers the character of Doofus.
I remember Doofus, Launchpad's little buddy.
Yeah, the triplets' little buddy in the Junior Woodchucks.
Yep.
Yeah, they went a completely different direction with him in this. He is their neighbor still. He is not their friend. He is a uber spoiled rich kid whose grandmother left him a fortune and he uses it terribly. He's basically really creepy and basically treats his parents like his personal slaves.
All right, that is a bit of a different.
Oh yeah. I actually had to stop and go back and go, is that the same character? Yeah, that's the same name. Jesus. Of course, I had mentioned before the character of Webigail Vanderquack, or Webby, is really different in this one, as she was younger than the triplets in the first one and kind of a girly girl dependent. Here she is, she's been isolated her entire life, living in the mansion as Beakley's granddaughter, but she is very proactive, very physical, but socially awkward. And that gets toned down as the series goes on, which is good because she makes friends and she's friends with the triplets. And I really have learned to like this new incarnation of her character. They keep referencing her old one, however, in little side jokes. At one point, Magica turns her into a doll, and the doll looks like the original Webby from the 87 series.
Oh wow, we've almost gone like 10 minutes on this, by the way.
I know, it's a great series. It's one that, you really learn. The plot is well written and really good. You have to deal with the simplistic animation that is kind of the bread and butter of today's cartoons, but it grows on you. I still think the original 87 version of the theme song is better than the current, but I can deal with the current. And the character of Della really adds a new dimension to the relationships here. They just introduced Daisy in the 3rd season, and we also find the new revised origin for the Rescue Rangers. So
Nice.
I'm like, I'm really digging this show. I can't wait. It's currently airing season 3 right now. So that one's not available on like Disney Plus. But I would really advise to people to catch up on the first 2 seasons. All right.
Alrighty. Next bit.
Okay, yep. Keeping the animation train going, but moving over to Japan now. Yeah, I finally got around to finishing the 2nd season of the anime K-On! Which it's still slice of life anime, so there isn't like a shit ton to go into. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's interesting though because season 1 was like 12 episodes and a random extra tacked on that doesn't technically count, but sort of technically does. It's weird. I didn't count it. I don't remember if I actually watched it or not. Season 2 is 24 episodes with 2 extras, which is just like, whoa, okay. For a slice of life anime, that's quite a lot. But basically, season 1 was like these girls starting the band in like freshman year, and they might have gone a bit into other stuff, but I forget. But generally, season 2 onwards is like all following them to the end and graduating, except for, well, the majority of the characters, because one of them is like a year under them, I think. She's either a year under them or she's a freshman, so there's like generally a year or 2 between them. So they have like, which it plays out, it's like she gets all sad that they're graduating. And it's an anime about high school, so clearly they're all heading off to college because that's realistic. You know, of course, it is so funny watching this now and realizing, yeah, pretty much every slice of life high school anime that I've watched like this that covers that portion of their schooling life always has even the slackers end up going to college.
Yeah.
I think that's because it's so much harder to get into high schools in Japan. It's probably more likely to be assumed.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is that they've like crammed for it. It's not that they just breezed through. And like this is specifically set at like a private all-girls school, which I forgot at one point, and I was like, "Huh, there are no male students. That's a bit odd." And then I realized, oh, it's it's set at an all-girls school. That's why. I mean, there's like male teachers, and I think the principal's a dude. But yeah, like the main focus is like one of the teachers and these kids. And it's so funny because, like, in the last episode, they're having like this tearful goodbye with the teacher and that, and I'm like, you know, it would have been nice if high school was actually like this, but it's not. So, especially
Lies
not
and deceit.
Yeah. I mean, like, I know of like teachers that were fine, but it's just so funny in hindsight watching and thinking, God, it would be nice if high school was actually like this, but God knows it wasn't. At least not in my experience. Although I even thought, and I almost kind of want to look into it more and do a video on it, which is weird for me, but of just like I almost wonder if they handle these shows like this just so like just as like it's basically escapism. It's like, well, if your high school experience was shit or is currently shit, then here's the show where you can watch people having a decent high school life. Or it's, you know, just funny. Like, I can't I can relate to some of the characters. But it's always just kind of funny how that works out. But yeah, like I also find it weird that there's a running gag near the end of the show that like the music apparently isn't any good, and I'm like, what? Where'd this come from? I mean, it's depends on what you're into, but I remember thinking all their songs were fun, not necessarily great, but fun. And then it's funny because like one of them at the end is like, "Wow, you guys really are kind of crap, aren't you?" It's just like, what the fuck? Where'd this come from? But I honestly kind of wish there was like more to this franchise than there is. Like at least following these characters. Apparently, there's a spin-off manga at least that follows like a different group of girls at another school who were inspired by this lot to do a similar thing or something like that. Almost kind of wish there was like just a third season following the character that didn't graduate because she was like a year or two under them. To see, okay, where does her story go from there and blah. But or even just following the other girls into college, because I don't think I've ever seen an anime that's actually focusing on college students. Usually it's just high school at most, and then that's it. So that would be nice. But yeah, granted, if anything happens for this franchise anime-wise, it'll be a while, because not only what we're going through right now, but also this is Kyoto Animation that had to deal with that fucking arson attack. Like,
Oh yeah,
last time I talked about it, it was relatively fresh.
yeah,
So
yeah. I think the
like,
last time
yeah,
you
they're,
mentioned the
they're
show was like within the week or so of that happening.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So it's like that, on top of what we're going through at the moment, they're kind of screwed. So hopefully they can recover from this and keep putting out stuff and do something, even if it's just like make a show of the spin-off manga. That would be fun. But yeah, I would definitely say, like, if you specifically like high school anime and you want to see like a music focused slice of life anime, because I feel like most of these kinds of shows about music usually center around like either a all guy band, or it's like mixed or something, and this is just a bunch of high school girls doing this because it's fun. I'd say give it a watch. If slice of life isn't your thing, I don't know if this is going to convince you. So
Probably
yeah.
not. Probably not. There's very few breakout slice of life
Um,
things.
yeah. I will say though, I still find it funny that a lot of this voice cast, at least in the English dub, are voices I specifically recognize, but also that at least two of the main characters have some overlap with the Sailor Moon dub. Like the ditzy, one of the most ditzy character in this kind of idiot slacker is, funnily enough, the same woman who does the current English dub voice for uh Sailor Moon from Sailor Moon, so Usagi now in the new dub. Because they actually use the original Japanese names, and one of them is Rei in the Sailor Moon dub, so there's a lot of overlap with that, which I found funny the first time through. Yeah, I'd say check it out so long as you're into slice of life anime.
All right. Payments on that. So next up is Final Fantasy VII.
So I guess we're continuing in Japan. So see there, there's a progression. But yes, so I've been, I believe I've mentioned in the past that I've been watching Let's Plays of Final Fantasy VII Remake due to not owning a PlayStation 4. However, just due to the hype around this game, I figured it's still worth talking about, especially for people who are completely avoiding even that level of spoilers. So essentially, to talk about this game, the one important thing to mention is that, and by the way, I've been following 48 Productions, who's a great Final Fantasy VII channel. and who had a lot of misgivings, of the same misgivings I did about the news leading into this. So definitely somebody who I was on the same page with, and I could see, you know, so the fact that he enjoyed the combat style makes me think that myself and a lot of other people who were very iffy about the action RPG combat style are more likely to like it than we expected. That said, with the game, there's basically an A plot and a B plot. The A plot takes up is front and center 80 to 90% of the time until you reach the part where you expect it to end, and that is basically perfect remake. And it improves a lot of things that, you know, because of the better graphics, because of the longer story, and because of the voices, can be improved without drastically changing anything. Those things that are changed in the A plot are because it's episodic and because you can't save certain things for the second game. Certain character development needs to happen within at least the first game of a series. So there are some changes as a result of that. That said, the A plot is a very strong, faithful remake that anybody who enjoys Final Fantasy VII will enjoy. The B plot, which you can pretty much ignore if you shut off the game where you expect it to end, is basically put in to say, okay, yes, this is a remake, but we know that we don't want the game to be too predictable, so there are these mechanisms in place so that going forward, the plot does not have to be the same as it originally was. And I don't want to really spoil what that is for those who are interested in playing or watching it.
I might have
I'm a
some
little
news on
iffy
you
about
for
how
that,
they
by the
did
way.
that. But it's basically put in there in place to say the plot will not be exactly the same. And since the game has come out, there have been interviews where they say maybe remake isn't the right word for it as an entire series. I do think that the first game is a faithful remake up until that point that I mentioned. But they're leaving a lot of questions in the air as to what future games will be. That said, having watched this Let's Play and partial other Let's Plays, which, by the way, you do need to play the game at least 3 times to get all of the choices to see 100% of the game. And there's also some post-game content, so it's not literally just a 40-hour you're done. There's probably I would say I watched a 50-hour Let's Play. He had at least another 30 hours of content left. So I would say it seems like, it's longer than some modern games, not as long as a 1990s game. But it definitely is enough for me to say, okay, when I have the money saved up, I will be buying probably a PS5 or a PS4 if the 5 is not out yet, and buying this game. So those are my kind of summary thoughts, etc., based on seeing Let's Plays for those who are on the fence about it.
Okay. I might have had some more recent news on that, Bill, but I might talk to you later about that.
Okay.
I will say when
in
I
particular,
watched
about how it ended, but yeah.
I will say when I watched the trailer, the main thing I was like, at first it was kind of joking. The main thing I was like, well, if they've gotten rid of the cross-dressing Cloud bit, then I'm not interested. And not only did they keep
Don't
it,
worry,
but
they
they
haven't
made
gotten
the
rid of
outfit.
it.
Yeah, yeah, but like they show it in the trailer, so it's just
And
like, it's not only have they done it, they've made him look
from
better.
just
So.
watching Let's Plays, I did not realize that there were still choices about that. But there are choices that affect all of the characters' outfits during that whole sequence based on your prior decisions.
Okay.
I'm probably going to get that sometime soon.
I'm not going to
Either
bother
this month or
touching it until it's complete, and
month or
even then I
next
want PC version.
Well, I do have a PS4. I haven't been using it recently because I've been playing Assassin's Creed, so.
Alrighty. So I think that's about it for Geek Talk then?
Yep.
Well, I had one thing to go back to DuckTales for a moment.
Okay.
This was their Comic-Con poster that they put out last Comic-Con that showed like all the characters that they've added to the show.
Oh, I think I was showing that one as you were talking
Oh,
about.
okay. I had no idea. Just to let you know, the one down like right above the tails in DuckTales is Della.
Wow, Tim.
What?
You breathed like right into the microphone.
And probably as of now, there's still probably about a half dozen characters on here that haven't actually appeared.
Ah.
A few have been mentioned, like I think Professor Van Drake, who is over on the right. He's been mentioned but never seen. But yeah.
So I see Goofy, but I don't see Max. So
Max is referenced.
Yeah, I'm sure if he's not there, he's gonna be at least
Goofy
referenced.
appears in the sitcom episode. And
that makes sense.
He talks about a story. He is the neighbor in that. He talks about a story about him and Max at an amusement park, and you do see Max in his like book of photos, in like his wallet pictures. But we haven't seen Baloo.
If Goofy's there, is Pete there?
That's
either
a possibility
Pete or
that he might be
PK,
the
I
neighbor
think
on the
was
other
there.
side of Goofy.
Because it literally the pictures look like they came out of an episode of Goof Troop.
So it's possible.
Because in hindsight, I do find it kind of funny that Goofy's outfit looks like a color changed version of like a Mr. Rogers outfit.
Well, that's
pretty
what it
much
was in the
Goof's
show,
outfit.
so.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all of those, I think Goof Troop, oddly enough, was the one I saw the most of.
I watched a lot of Goof Troop. I watched a lot of Rescue Rangers. I watched a lot of Tailspin.
I've watched a lot of all these, but I think Goof Troop was the one I remember seeing the most.
One thing I did mention, I still occasionally have problems with David Tennant as Scrooge. It's like he'll say one line and it's pure Scrooge, and the next line it's like that's David Tennant.
Oops.
It'll just go back and forth. He'll say some things, it's perfect Scrooge, but then he'll say things and the Tennant tone comes out.
Oh.
All right.
I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that. What is that? Duck Zeus and Duck Hercules.
Yes, that's Storkules, and I think they just refer to the other one as Zeus. They've been in there since season 1.
Ah. So are they like actual godly figures in the show?
Yeah, they reside on the Isle of Ithaquack.
Of course.
And the one below Storkules there is the goddess of the moon. They're recurring characters. Storkules is used as comic relief because he's a complete and total idiot.
Well, yeah.
Zeus is obsessed with beating Scrooge, who frequently beats him at everything because he's Scrooge fucking McDuck. The last episode I saw, they actually had the Norse gods. He had to defeat Jormungandr, the big dragon that circles the earth, at professional wrestling. It was a fucked up episode. I'm not going to say I hated it, but I was like, oh wow, this is fucked up.
Alrighty.
All right.
So
I just wanted to show that because I wanted to make sure you guys saw Della.
So yeah, I think
Della?
we're down.
The one right above Tails.
Wait, yeah, who was that?
Della Duck. That's the triplet's mother.
Oh, okay, that's
Figure
the
there
one,
with the goggles on her head and the prosthetic leg.
Yeah.
Because she lost it on the moon in the crash. Built the prosthetic leg herself out of rocket ship parts. She's that kind of person.
So MacGyver then. Anyway. Yeah, I believe we're down to retconning score. Anyone else watch the Faceless Ones?
No, I'm planning on watching it this week.
I've not gotten to it yet.
I was up until 4 in the bloody morning watching it.
No one put a gun to your head.
It was the only time I was ever gonna get it in. At least in one sitting. Now that I'm taking up normal. Not without taking up a normal airtime on a Wednesday.
Given
I
that
coulda-
it's like a companion leaving episode, I'm wondering if it was mixed in with that stuff, or if it was just when you guys were trying to
The
get through
Faceless
the
Ones,
rest
yes,
of
it is.
the.
257, found it.
There you go. So, what did I originally score this thing?
Just a second.
Got a pretty good idea what I think I'm scoring it now.
You originally scored it a 3.
I originally scored it a 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think my new final score is a 4.5.
Really?
Oh yeah, that was really good. I really enjoyed it, but man, was I tired by the end because it was so late. But but the fact that I was tired, but I managed to stay up through it is already a testament to how well that went off.
Yeah.
The animation, while I don't think the animations are usually been perfect per se sometimes for these, but I will say the animation does definitely save this one. Because I just remember this being a slog for like a good half of it.
All right. You said 4.5?
Yeah, that's a really good spike. That's nearly perfect. There's still
All
a little
right.
few minor things I would have fixed up story-wise, or feel like they're inconsistent with the original footage, but otherwise it's really good.
So that increases the rating from a 3.4 to a 3.7. And that's based on Matt's alone.
I didn't rewatch it more recently, but I did watch it last week, I think. And based on how I can remember liking it, I'd give one, because I wasn't here for the original one, I'd give it a 4.
All right. And that bumps it to a 3.8. So we're getting there.
So nudge up. It's trying to work its way higher.
I'm debating not giving it a current rating because more of us are going to be coming up the pipes. But I'll just say right now, that would move it from its old position, which was 244, up to 193.
So
Nice
that
little
was
bump.
like 50 degrees up.
Mm-hmm. And like I said, I'll be giving a review next week, so it's going to probably keep rising.
Quite possibly.
I'll do my best to give a review next week too.
All right, we'll
Make
see
sure-
how you two do then by next week. And that's a relatively short score update.
Yep.
So, Doctor Who summary then.
Yep. And that's me.
Hooray.
All right. Let me clear my brain because I had DuckTales on the head now, so I need to remember
Yeah,
what.
it needs to stop.
No, I mean I need to remember my mental notes about the Aztecs. Just a moment. All right. Let me load it up because I need names.
I needed. These are some complex names when you look at them too. It's like,
Yeah,
oh.
I know. That's why I'm building. That's why I'm using a cheat sheet based on. I'm building a cheat. I'm basically going to not steal the plot thing from Wikipedia. I just want the name list.
If it makes it any easier, at least one of the names the cast apparently couldn't agree on how to pronounce. So
That one I'll just deal with myself. All right. So go ahead and tell me when you're ready, Matt.
All right, let me swap over to here. Okay, ready. So I guess starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so after our previous adventure on Marinus, the TARDIS disappears and appears inside an Aztec tomb. Barbara and Susan are the first to get out, and they briefly talk about the Aztecs. Barbara references the fact that she is a bit of an expert on Aztec culture. And as they're talking, they're looking over a body interred there, and Barbara finds a bracelet and puts it on. Well, while Susan gets back to deal with the others, Barbara finds the way out of the tomb, and she's quickly found by the locals, who believes that she is the female reincarnation of Yetaxa, their high priest, who should now be a god. And of course, they immediately worship her. Meanwhile, the Doctor, Susan, and Ian come out. They get out of the tomb and are found by the people and brought to her, who she basically declares them to be her servants. The two people that are mostly involved with these two is the High Priest of Knowledge, whose name is Otlok,
Mm-hmm.
and the High Priest of Sacrifice, whose name is Tlatoxel, and that's the best I'm going to pronounce it, because
They're fairly close.
nobody
good.
can get that one right. Anyway, pretty soon, they're both originally seems to be somewhat in veterans of her, but pretty soon there's supposed to be a sacrifice, and they're supposed to witness it. Susan doesn't like this, screams out. Barbara commands the sacrifice to be stopped. The sacrifice chooses to sacrifice himself by jumping off the do you call those things? Do you call the Aztec versions pyramids or?
Yeah.
Yeah, jumps off
Pretty
the
sure
pyramid
it's
to his
pyramid.
death.
It's technically a pyramid, though they're not really finished one. But anyway.
He jumps off to his death, and they're originally going to punish Susan, but Barbara forbids it. Well, this starts getting the High Priest of Sacrifice thinking that Barbara's not really Yetaxa, which of course she isn't. But he starts scheming. A lot of his schemes revolve around the captain of the person who's supposed to be the captain of their warriors, Ixta. He deals with this by placing Ian as co-captain, which Ixta doesn't like, and starts plotting Ian's death. Eventually, the two wind up getting into a challenge in hand-to-hand combat. Ixta winds up involving the Doctor because the Doctor needs the plans to get back into the tomb, because apparently the door is a trick on how to get in it, and they would like to be able to get back to the TARDIS. Basically, the Ixta tells the Doctor that if he helps him cheat, he'll give him some plans his father, who was the architect, left of the tomb. The Doctor helps with a poison, not knowing it's that he's fighting Ian. Well, of course, it doesn't work, or it works, and Ian gets knocked out. But fortunately, Barbara shows up and forbids them from killing Ian, which was, of course, Tlatoxel's plan. This just leads him to more scheming, trying to poison Barbara, which Ian overhears and has her stop. Meanwhile, the Doctor is talking with this nice old lady, Kameka, in the garden of the garden that they send all the seniors to go to basically work as a retirement home. Wonderful society. And accidentally winds up getting himself married when he makes hot chocolate for the lady. This, of course, triggers the Doctor's nope reaction. As he realizes he just got a wife. It's like, oh, crap. But soon they realize that there's a tunnel behind the garden that leads into the tomb. Ian winds up trying to climb up it, nearly drowns because it's also a water duct. But figures out that they need to develop a rig to get in the door. Well, Tlatoxel, still plotting, tries to get Susan engaged to the perfect sacrifice, who is supposed to be sacrificed the next day when there's a solar eclipse. Susan refuses, and she is to be punished. Likewise, Ian gets himself in trouble again, is accused of trying to kill Otlok, who is Barbara's friend, and Otlok winds up losing his faith and eventually goes out into the wilderness to try to regain his sense of piety. This, of course, leaves them without any friends in the city. But except for Kameka, who uses Otlok's remaining status to try to bribe the guard to let Susan out. Ian knocks out the guard, takes his place. Susan and them show up, stops Taloxel from basically just knifing Barbara. He calls for Ixta, and the two have a fight, with eventually Ixta being shoved off the pyramid to his death. The doctor has managed to build up a pulley system to finally get the door open, and they flee into the TARDIS and leave. Next story.
All right. You did it in 6 minutes, 29 seconds.
Too much shit going on.
Mm.
I mean, Taloxel's like a frickin' Slytherin, I swear to God. All right. So let's see what we liked about the episode overall. And I forgot to roll for names. Because, yeah, I'm running on all thrusters today, I swear to God. All right, so it looks like Tim's first today.
Oh boy. Okay, so something I just loved the character of Taloxel, that guy. Smiley Joker face. I love how, like, he did the thing where it was like the hand twisting evil villain, but his machinations were still sophisticated enough that you bought it.
If he had a mustache, he'd twirl it.
If he had a mustache, he'd twirl it. But like, he wasn't, like, he was intelligent enough to, like, his plans and his schemes and the way he went about it made sense. Like, it was logical, I think.
He would scheme the master under the table.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I will say he's a rather intense but also very believable villain in this one. Yep. Okay.
What am I gonna say? I actually kind of like, given the significance of the setting, I like the sets of this episode. Just felt like there was both a good variety and detailed enough to get me engrossed. I'm not an Aztec scholar by any sense of the word or an art historian, and I could not tell you if the art was authentic Aztec art, but it was definitely enough to draw me in and make me feel like it was accurate.
By
Yeah,
the way,
I can't tell
we
you
did
for
not have a historical fact check is because neither Bill or myself knows enough about Aztec culture to compare to the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And my
I can
attempt to look it up
also
failed.
speaking of the sets and the set art, I will say that I'm not sure if it's accurate either, but I can tell you that from what I've seen, because Aztecs, for whatever reason, was brought up a lot in my school years, it does look decent enough to at least allow you, especially in the 1960s, to believe, yeah, that's probably Aztec.
All right, Matt, how about you? What did you like?
Actually, Tim took mine.
Yeah, well, Bill
Oh.
took mine, so deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we've mentioned the main villain and the sets. I'm gonna say the costumes actually looked pretty decent for this too. And I'm pretty sure that costuming for this had to have been a nightmare, because you don't normally have these kind of things for this kind of setting just laying around BBC like you would most of the other stuff.
And there were a few elaborate ones too.
Yeah.
I was trying to find if there were anything on the production notes. And I could not find anything on whether they reused any particular sets or costumes for this. As far as I can tell, they made it all.
Which just throws in how much effort they at least tried to throw in. Even if it wasn't exact, they at least gave it a darn hard try.
Especially considering, like, this was the same season that had Marco Polo, which is where all the costume budget probably went.
Yeah, if it
From what I
wasn't
keep
for
hearing
this
about
one
it,
too, I
so-
would say that Marco Polo is definitely another big budget costume one.
I will tell you this: the costumes are not Aztec accurate.
Okay.
According to TARDIS, it says that they checked them and they were.
No, they used artistic license with it because male Aztecs usually only wore brief loincloths and women were often topless.
So okay, so either they presented this in a confusing way or something, because according to TARDIS, it says that that is a myth about the episode, and that they were actually accurate.
I was gonna say, I don't know about that being the case,
My guess
Randy.
is my guess is it was like accurate by 1960s standards.
So let me get the exact wording based on TARDIS as the source. 1 second. It says that the myth is that the costumes used. Okay, it really just refreshed while I was reading it. Thank you very fucking much, ads. No, it's still pretending that it's on it. Come on now. There we go. The myth is that the costume used by the Aztecs covered more of their body than was the case in reality, so as not to offend 60 standards of decency. It says that the truth is the costumes used had been researched before filming and were accurate reflections of those worn by the real Aztecs.
I would like to know. I would like to know who they cited with that.
I do wish there was a source.
That's the thing.
And,
At least,
and I will say, I haven't been actually no, I have been. Well, yeah. Either way, just knowing what I know about longitude and latitude, I would not want to wear many of those costumes in the places that the Aztecs lived. That's not to say that they didn't. Maybe they were just hardier than me. But yeah.
Also depends on the material they're made of.
Wikipedia sources cite something called Ainsworth 2016.
Why does that ring a bell?
John, it's apparently a bibliography. Inside the Spaceship, Marco Polo, The Keys of Marinus, and the Aztecs. Doctor Who, The Complete History, Kamini Comics, Hatchet Partworks. Okay.
Also, it might have possibly have come up in like, they might have brought up what kind of research they did in the behind the scenes.
So if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch and you happen to know for sure, other than just having heard one of those two sides in the past, please comment and let us know.
Yeah, it's hard to say because liberties have been taken with Aztec
It
costuming
sounds like
for
it's
so
degrading
long.
to a he said, she said, especially since TARDIS is not citing any sources. So
yeah, it's really hard to say.
Yeah. And again, it wouldn't be surprising to me if it was like they thought it was accurate, but it was like 1960s accurate as opposed to modern day accurate.
Yeah.
The truth might be somewhere in the middle for all we know.
Right.
Anyway,
Probably depend on region.
Thomas.
Thankfully this wasn't taken yet, and I think I maybe had something else, but I'm just gonna go with this instead. The relationship between the Doctor and that, I can never remember her name, but the woman
Kamika?
that he
Kamika,
that he gets married to, especially because they do kind of, even though he's like, oh shit, I just got married, it's still kind of, he does still seem to be kind of like, well shit, I actually have to leave. Like, I feel like kind of shitty, like leaving.
I feel really
here,
awful for doing this, but I actually legit do need to go.
Yeah, it's like it's a subtle thing of like, this is like an example you use of this is how the Doctor in a relationship sort of could work, because it's like it's very subtle performance when he's like, oh shit, I actually do have feelings for this rando woman that I met 3 episodes ago. Compared to something like the whole Rose shit, which, you know, I'll beat that dead horse until it's
still,
not,
you want to bet when he got in that tomb and was heading for the TARDIS, you want to bet he was sitting there going, nope, 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 nope. You wouldn't think the doctor to be the person to have a woman in every port, would you?
I don't know. After the 11th Doctor, it's hard to say.
Jack Harkness? Yes. The doctor? No. Well, with Jack Harkness, it doesn't have to be a woman or even human.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I guess I appreciated the whole concept of trying to maintain the integrity of time, with Barbara being the voice of let's change things for the better, and the doctor being no. And I mean, even thinking about it, when Ian killed Ixta, I'm like, okay, how many thousands of people have you just wiped from existence? How many kids would he had? Who would have had kids? Who would have had kids?
Or maybe did he save a dozen Spanish soldiers and their future dynasty?
Oof.
Either way. I mean, you know, I was even thinking that with the sacrifice, you could get into a city on the edge of forever situation for Star Trek fans, where you save somebody's life and their descendant winds up being somebody who stops the U.S. from developing the nuclear bomb or some shit. To use directly the city on the edge of forever example.
No nuclear vessels.
No, it just means Germany got there first.
Yeah, it's also good that it's like, it's specifically they even have lines where the doctor's like, well, me and Ian don't exactly want to see these people die either, but we can't interfere. Which is kind of funny because it goes to a backup, because I kind of like how like they're not just and they're not just like, oh, these bunch of savages from however long ago. They like flat out have a scene right at the start where they're like, well, hey, yeah, they did human sacrifices and shit, and that's awful, but they were also, otherwise weren't, they didn't try to play up like, oh yes, the simple savage kind of bullshit.
Human
that
sacrifices.
you would
This
normally
episode is
expect.
topical.
Boom, boom, boom.
All right. So what didn't you like? And Tim, you're first.
Okay, what didn't I like? Going on the what you were saying, Randy, I thought it was kind of weak, the fact that yes, they said you can't interfere with history, and yet throughout the entire episode they do nothing but interfere in history.
That's Barbara's fault.
But that raises the question, like, wouldn't just their own presence there be interfering in history?
That's the thing. They're trying to minimize the
Now
doctor.
you're getting into the Shakespeare Code.
You're getting into butterfly chaos theory. The problem is
Just don't step on a butterfly. What has a butterfly ever done to you?
The problem is, yeah, they're trying to minimize it, but trying to change their whole culture is really kind of gross alteration of time. Rather than going in, trying the food, taking in the culture, and leaving.
Yeah, and not killing anyone.
Yep.
Like even if it's in self-defense, it's like.
What if it was your own great-great-great-grandfather?
Although that begs the question, which changes history more, killing somebody in self-defense or leaving behind like your modern wristwatch and wallet and photos of, well, they wouldn't have coins with George Washington, but coins with Queen Elizabeth on them.
Like Ian's fancy manufactured dress shirt?
Yeah.
Mm. And the fact that Ian teaches everyone, or not, the Vulcan nerve pinch.
Did he leave his dress shirt behind?
It couldn't be the Vulcan nerve pinch because the Vulcans Star Trek hasn't came out when they did this.
Oh.
And yes, as far as we're aware, Ian and the others all left their original modern clothes there.
Yep.
Everyone that changed.
See, I'm like an accepted doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone but the Doctor just warped time. Thanks, guys.
Let's do the time warp again. All right.
Aztecs were the first to make pants.
Why did they have trousers? Where did they come up with trousers? All right. Bill, how about what you disliked?
So what was the first dislike? I feel like we talked.
They fucked up with time too much.
They fuck
Yeah.
with time.
Right.
They constantly fuck with time inside the
So I
same
can't
vision.
talk about that. So I'm going to go with the fact that it seemed like Barbara was getting a little power mad there. She's just like every time like someone disagrees with her, it's not like, well, we're in their culture, and it's like, no, this will happen, or I will destroy you, and I have nothing to back this up, but fuck you, I'm Barbara Wright, and
No,
you will do everything I
that
say.
that was trying to be fuck you, I'm a god.
Yeah, and then she, but I mean, she was trying to, wield all the power of a god, while at the same time doing none of the things that they expected the gods to do, and just assuming that everyone would cave into her.
That's because she couldn't, and she was trying to bullshit her way through.
Right.
And the doctor basically told her to bullshit this.
I mean, no, because just saying, yeah, the sacrifice is okay, that is something they would expect the god to do. That would have been bullshitting your way through it.
I know.
Instead, she had to be like, you will change your culture. You will bow down to,
That's
she
because she
went
thought
over
it
the
was
top.
right, and she thought that if she did that, they might be able to survive the Spanish
But, like,
attack.
she wasn't
Which
even
is
clever
a
about it.
buttload of bullshit, but
Right. Yeah.
because the Spanish wanted fucking gold, and
I'm sorry.
The
I'm
Aztecs
hearing
were in the
Bill
way.
going on about this. All I can see is Manos hands of fate down before me.
at least she wasn't going, "Oh, you disagree? Off with your head." Yeah.
No, that would have been more what they expected.
I know that, but that's still.
More what they wanted, but for
in
the wrong
modern day,
reasons.
I could see them doing this, and the doctor's just sitting there face palming and shaking his head.
And I
going,
mean,
"Oh, God."
even a perfect example where she's not even bullshitting that she's a god anymore. She's just like, no, I'm not a god, and no one will believe you if you try to say anything. And I'm like, do you really want to push this issue?
I will talk about that scene later.
Okay.
All right, Matt, your least what did you dislike about the episode overall?
The piss poor way Susan is treated this entire serial. My God, this poor girl. I want to give her a hug. She looks.
I mean,
even her actress looks like she needs it at this point.
That's kind of Susan in a nutshell. To me.
Well, Susan can usually be like really good, really hotly mediocre, or some sort of bipolar in the middle, where she's constantly going back and forth. But this one, she's just like cornered off by herself and just treated poorly by everybody.
Here, no, you did this, so we're going to put you in a seminary where you're going to have to read this book and learn lessons. Oh, by the way, you're getting married to this guy.
And if you say no, we're going to stick needles in your tongue and your ears and your forehead. Get ready for torture, kiddo.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's, but yeah, it's funny because we've
Just
had
the worst.
Edge of Destruction where she goes nuts. Keys of Mariner, she almost goes nuts, and then there's she has to deal with all the bullshit in this.
Yeah, she's kind of getting the Tegan performance at this point.
Yeah, just
Oh,
about.
the problem is she's at least Gallifreyan, so might be a little used to dealing with shit like this.
On some level.
Yeah, whereas, the humans are just like, nope, done now.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right.
speaking of Tegan, by the way, really quick, I noticed that one of the characters in the animated stuff for the Faceless Ones looked like Tegan.
Mm. So,
Uh,
well, they are dealing with an airport, if I remember correctly, originally.
So I'm
Yeah.
just like, that's amusing. I wonder if that was actually a legit thing or not.
All right, Thomas, what you disliked about the serial overall?
um. I feel like I had something. Let's see. God, it's one of those things where I had something and then got caught up in everyone else's things. I'm just like, what the fuck was mine again? God, yeah, God, yeah, no, I'm pretty much just gonna have to pass because I don't remember. Because like I think the closest I had to one was just a jerky one where the brown face seemed to be inconsistent, where it seemed like one guy had brown face to start with. Like the guy that ends up sort of siding with Barbara seems like he's got brown face in the first episode. And then the longer the serial goes on, it's just like goes away. So it's like, was that just like,
Actually, that's kind of
was that
interesting.
even
It
a
looks
thing?
like some of them might have been bronzed up a little bit, the others not so much. In either case, a lot of them still look fairly white in the color pictures they took on set.
Yeah.
How do you know that was brownface? How do you know that wasn't just his vacation tan?
That's true too, to be honest. We don't know.
True. Yeah.
Do the English tan?
Will
They
they leave the
can.
country?
They don't. They don't.
When
just
they
turn
go to
they
Spain
don't.
for vacation.
They don't just turn lobster red.
No, that's the Irish.
That's the
Yep,
Irish
I
you're
can-
thinking of.
I can account for that.
Being Irish, trust me, I fucking know that.
Amen.
All right. So what I didn't like is, there are several times where where if I had been Barbara, I would have had the freaking high priest imprisoned. Oh God, you just tried to poison me.
Where's those guards? Yeah.
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 Or I ordered you to tell my servants not to visit me. You deliberately did not.
Mm.
And that would have solved so much shit.
Well,
Mhm.
30 seconds after he tried to poison her, she told him she wasn't a god. So
Yeah.
Again, I will bring that up later. Because I will tell you now that is my least favorite scene.
Yeah.
It's
I
like-
did actually remember what my least favorite aspect was, and that was that all of this could have been over so much quicker if they'd just gone, hey, you want us to fuck off forever? Let us get back into that room we came out of, and then you'll never have to deal with us again.
I don't think they knew how to get back in the tomb.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Sure, yeah. But it's still like, help
It wasn't
us
until
get
Ian
back
managed
into
to
that
slip
room.
through there and through the aqueduct that they were really able to get in.
But it's like, if you help us try to get back in there, then we can like just go, and we won't be a problem.
We can just
anymore.
vanish. You can have your eclipse. You can do whatever sacrifice you want, and we're gone.
But like, no one even tries to bring that up as like, hey, you want us gone? Help us do this thing, and we'll get out of, and we'll be gone forever. You'll never see us again.
The thing is, at that point too, they might also still be considered tomb raiders. So
Yeah, that's
and
the only other thing.
that was a death sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of things in Aztec culture.
Mm.
An
All
arm for
right.
an arm.
Favorite scene? Tim.
Oh, I just love the scene where the Doctor and Kamika get married. And they look so cute drinking their cocoa together.
Yeah, we think that's a whole bunch of bunk, by the way. That wasn't an Aztec culture thing.
Of like
I've seen at
sharing
least
cocoa
one.
wasn't a marriage proposal.
Correct.
Yeah, I've seen at least one article saying that was BS, but they didn't cite anybody either.
Yeah, I mean, and that also might have been just a local thing. I can tell you this: what we consider hot cocoa is not what the Aztecs considered hot cocoa.
Oh no, it's not.
No sweeteners, punks.
Yeah, no sweeteners,
Raw
no milk.
cocoa.
Oh, that's right. That whole cow conversation was before we started streaming.
Correct. By the way, if you caught us before we started streaming and we were trying to think if there was any kind of bovine or anything like that would be any milk producers that are actually out in Mexico, because it's too far south for bison and it's too far north for alpacas. So we honestly don't know, but
goat lore about goats is common enough from Mexico that I'm sure they had goats.
if they
Possibly.
I
yeah,
don't
so,
know about otherwise.
So if anything, they would have had goat milk. But from what I remember, hot cocoa to the Aztecs was just cocoa beans and hot water.
Yeah.
Which I can tell you is very, very bitter.
Not all that different from coffee.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. So I just shared in the podcast chat a video that was part of the special features on the Aztecs DVD. It's all about
How to make
cocoa.
Oh, the Aztec way?
Yeah. Yeah. It says crushed beetles are involved.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Mm.
And apparently, like, this takes time. Like, you have to leave it out for 7 days to, for it
Yeah,
to
that wouldn't have happened in the
ferment.
time frame of this episode.
No, it wouldn't have.
Not without the TARDIS, anyway. Just pop it in there. Hey, TARDIS, can you make a weak pass in this little jar?
Yeah, but they hadn't developed that plot line yet. That didn't happen till the 11th Doctor, God damn it. That's a Moffatism.
Damn you, Moffat.
All right. Bill.
Except for Edge of Destruction, of course.
Favorite scene.
My favorite scene... I guess I'm going to go with the scenes of the Doctor and Kameka bonding. It just seemed, very touching in a way. I don't think we had seen the Doctor really bond as equals with anybody before. Especially at this point in season 1. He genuinely seems to have affection for her and vice versa. There's nothing combative about it, and it seems like a real character growth moment for this point in the series.
Mm-hmm. It really does feel like that you just knocked a huge chunk of that brick wall that the Doctor has put up for how long.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Matt?
My favorite scene, actually this is one that still sticks with me even before I did the rewatch for our review today. And that's the combat scene in the end of the first episode. Or the end of the last episode.
The Ian versus Ixta?
Yep, the final fight between the two of them. What I really remember this scene is them going at each other with those weapons. By the way, those weapons look like I think they're authentic, but they look a lot like cricket mallets.
Cricket bats.
They look a lot like cricket bats with serrated things on the edges.
I'll say this much, though. Probably props, given that it seems that one of them gets broken off.
Yeah, that's just
I
a
don't know.
possibility.
I can remember watching that episode, and while I'm watching it, standing there going, dun 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 dun. The Star Trek combat music. Dun 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 dun.
I bet. Oh, you know what? We should have done that for the opening. Damn.
yeah,
Now we know
think
what we should have used for an opening. Oh well. But yeah, what I really remember a lot is them striking at each other with those weapons, and then in particular, I remember the guy rushing Ian leaning back, doing the kick up flip, and the guy just flying off those stairs. And also Ian quickly getting up and looking down the stairs, which is technically him looking down at a matte painting. Which, by the way, the matte painting yet again really nicely done.
Mm.
All right, Thomas, favorite scene?
Just because it's funny, I'm gonna go with Ian knocking that warrior out the first time.
Keeping
Using his thumbs to hit a pressure point on
Yeah.
his back and just knock him out.
Yeah.
I don't think we'd established Ian as being a great hand-to-hand fighter before this.
No, not really.
Yeah, I don't think.
I mean, he's a freaking history
He was the
teacher.
by necessity hand-to-hand. He's the science teacher.
Science physics teacher, yeah.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean,
that was one thing I kind of wished that he would, like, perform the miracles to back up Yutaxa. And he never really exercised that science background in this episode.
Yeah, like, I...
By the way, Ixta. This is the one that I keep forgetting the name of
Ixta,
the lead warrior.
Because, yeah, like, that was just funny because it's like, well, just do this simple thing. I guess you could argue maybe he wouldn't have gotten that from it, but I guess the idea is he might have been young and... Oh, wait, no, he wouldn't have been. How old is Ian supposed to be anyway?
I assume in his late 20s or probably in his like early 30s.
Late 20s, early 30s. Some was in there, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I was thinking, oh, maybe the most recent major war, he would have been a kid. So note that.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't have been in any of the wars.
Yeah.
By the 60s, yeah, he would have just missed them completely, or he might have been a very small child at the point.
So as of the start of Doctor Who, William Russell was 39. So
he was in his
late
30s.
So as our guess is that Ian's the same age as William Russell, but
so somewhere in his 30s, roughly.
Something like that. I mean, as a science teacher, he'd have to he'd have to have a minimum of a bachelor or master's degree, but he's certainly old enough to have done that and then started a career and continued it.
Yeah, he's even as an actor, he was old enough to have possibly done what Ian was capable of in that time frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was just slightly too young to be in World War II. Anyway. He could have been in Korean War, I guess, maybe. I don't know. People keep forgetting about that one.
I did not know England fought in it.
Oh, they had a few battalions in there because it was basically like a UN action. All right. So was that Matt's or was that Thomas's?
That was me.
Okay. So my favorite scene is the scene with the Doctor and Barbara at the end. Because, doesn't the Doctor give Barbara advice that he needed to have given to him many, many years later? If you can't save everybody, at least save somebody. Does this remind you of something Donna told the Doctor on Volcano Day?
This is why the Doctor should not be left alone.
It's amazing that in, 400 plus years he forgot that. But it's interesting to hear him give that same advice to somebody else. I just thought that was great.
Well, this is probably the most human moment he had actually reached at this point in the series, so...
He was in a good mood that day.
All right.
He was in a bittersweet mood, actually, all considering.
All right, so least favorite scene. Tim? Planet Tim.
Sorry, I accidentally muted my mic. Okay. I just like the very first scene because Susan and Barbara were completely too nonchalant about the fact that they were in a room with a dead body in it.
And they're just taking stuff off it.
They're just looting it. Yeah.
They're basically just looting a table with a corpse on it. It's cutting across the gems. No one's gonna care.
Yes.
So they're exactly the grave robbers that they're.
I'm
That
sorry.
people should have taken them for, yeah.
I'm sorry. I imagine that, using that morality, I imagine the doctor coming out, looking at that, turning around, going back in, and going, "Hey, kids, want to see a dead body?"
Well, they're an adventure. They're an adventuring party. So what did they do? They came across a dead body with some possibly mystical artifacts, and
Yeah, but you only do that if you're murder hobos.
Yeah, I was about to say, Bill, I don't think they're murder hobos because they really do try not to kill people, even though they don't always succeed.
No, they're scavenger birds.
Wow, now they're vultures. Jeez, thanks, Bill.
They wait for somebody else to be the murder hobos, stop them, and then come in and get the benefit.
Oh boy! So here we are in ancient Aztec society. We really shouldn't change anything. Loot, 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 loot.
Well, we know Cortez is just going to loot this in 50 years.
What's the matter if it goes missing now? Oof.
Louis Incorporated. Go back in time and loot mystic historical treasures before they disappear. Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. Bill, how about you?
So this is least favorite scene.
Yeah.
So this scene, and I mean, Barbara has a lot of scenes like this, but the one in particular, I think this is around the beginning of Act 3 or so, and she's just basically like, no, you're once again not doing a sacrifice, and you're also not punishing Susan for anything either. Just, you're not doing anything, and I'm just going to assume that you're going to accept this without any consequence. And I'm like, at this point, she's asking to be locked in a cell and her head chopped off.
Yeah. But, at that point, it's just like, I'm the god, I have spoken. But, yeah. There's only so much that you can get away with doing that.
And that was even after, I think, it was either Ian or the doctor, or possibly both, was just like, yeah, you realize most of the people here disagree with you. They're not on your side. You're fighting an uphill battle.
You've got one, maybe two people on your side.
Right.
That's it. All right. Matt, how about you? Least favorite scene?
Least favorite scene. The morning after Ian gets drugged, Ixta just kind of going, "Oh, hey there, buddy," after kicking his ass, and even Ian's like, "What the hell?" And he's just like, "I beat you last night. That means I can murder you whatever later when the time is right." Murder buddies. It's like, what the hell?
I've proven my alpha dominance. Now I'm going to act like your friend until I kill you.
Now I'm going to act like your buddy because I don't feel threatened by you. And remember, the proverbial noose is hanging right over your head any time now. Have a nice rest of your day.
Yeah.
That could just be cultural differences.
He came
off
off
a
as
cultural difference.
He came off as extra creepy there.
It's not even just creepy; it's just really awkward mood.
Well, that I meant awkward, creepy, not like creepy. Just like when somebody starts acting like that in a room, you start shuffling for the door.
But it begs the question: do you want someone who wants to kill you acting mean to you or nice to you?
I'd rather know their real intentions, but then again, he wasn't really hiding them either, was he? Oh no, it's really freaking awkward
No.
though.
All right, Thomas.
I am going to go with, since thankfully it wasn't taken, like the initial little sort of, for lack of a better term, kind of little the little like no weapon scuffle that Ian and that warrior have,
Ixta.
just because because I
I'm
just
remembering the
don't
name now.
like I just don't buy like Ian standing a chance against this like experienced warrior, hand to hand or not. It's just like, okay, come on, where did he, like, they're just kind of pulling it out of their ass that he somehow is strong enough to throw this guy.
Where's this science teacher
And
suddenly throwing out the
yeah,
ability
like
to
throwing
tussle
judo
like
shit
this?
and fucking
The plot demands it.
No, I
Like-
dislike that scene for the point where the doctor comes in and goes, "Ian, don't let him scratch you, huh? Scratch."
Yeah, that was the most what the hell moment. Don't let him scratch you. What? You
I mean, to
idiot.
be honest, that especially with that play-by-play, that sounds like the most logical, the response you would most expect to happen after that particular utterance.
Mm. But
Yeah,
it
but
was
you
just-
know, it's something that the doctor should have known better than just to blurt
Yes.
out like that in the
Oh,
middle of
yeah.
a fucking combat.
Yeah, the doctor of all people should have known better.
yeah.
It's just the moment that Ian gets scratched, immediately lowered expectations starts to play. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
It's just
Um,
scratch. It's just like
Da, 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 boom.
it. Yeah. So my least favorite scene is one that we've talked about. Is the yes, that would have killed me because I'm not your god, but you're not going to tell anyone. Seriously? Let's just give him all the information he needs to make sure that he's going to try to get you overthrown and killed.
Obviously, someone's not paying attention to Winston's advice.
You know, if I was in that situation, it's like, well, yes, that would have killed this shell. Yes, I'm a god, but I'm a god in human form. That would have
Yeah,
killed
yeah.
the
At least
human
try to
form.
logically play it
Yeah.
off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you understand where I might be unhappy about that.
And if you kill my physical form and I have to go back to the gods, what do you think I'm going to tell them about you?
You think I'm going to be giving you my blessing? No. At least at least when you're trying to maintain to the populace that you're a god, you don't tell the one person that's opposed to you.
Are you a god?
When somebody asks if you're a god, you say yes.
Yes, the Winston advice.
God, yeah, that's funny because like the only other like least favorite scenes that I could think of were just any moment that the villain looked directly at the camera.
Oh, thank you.
And there's
Yes.
a few.
Well, the reason they had them do that, and that's why I didn't bring it up, is because this was back when they were doing this like it was a play theatrical production.
Yep. And
Which
you
technically
can
was a thing
really-
until like the 70s.
You can really see that in the fight scenes, which they pretty much treat as an on-stage fight scene.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But when he looks directly at the camera, that's something that Shakespearean actors are taught to do.
Taught to do this, they're supposed to be looking at the
And
audience going, aha, you get it yet? Yeah.
And I do. It's funny because I specifically remember Diamanda Hagen once made a joke that it's like he escaped from a Shakespeare production.
Yes.
It's less
Purpose.
spiking the lens and more there was never a fourth wall to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's basically because that's the way they are taught. Because in Britain, it's something that we notice in particular here in America, because the way our television came from
movies. Yeah, our television came from movies where they were taught to ignore the fourth wall, whereas Britain's television came from play acting, where they're supposed to acknowledge the fourth wall whenever possible,
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and make sure that the entire audience is on foot with you.
Yep.
Mm.
So it's a completely different mentality nowadays.
Nowadays, they're
Britain-
getting much better at it in Britain.
Yeah, nowadays they're following the same thing that American productions do.
Mm. Yeah, it's funny because like the one where his face is right up in the screen for the episode.
That was the end
ending.
of episode 1, beginning
Yeah.
of episode 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just, I just even in my head, I'm just like, what do you, the viewer, think?
But yeah, I was
Dick
going to.
Bupkis intensity.
I had that in my notes as least favorite scene until I realized why they did it, and I'm like, oh yeah.
You know what? Yeah, it's just them hamming it up because that's what they were doing at the time. Just that's an age 60s Britain thing. Never mind.
Mhm.
Never mind. Move along. This is normal.
And if they hadn't gotten their actors from Shakespeare, we wouldn't have gotten Brian Blessed. Fly, Hawkman, fly! Yes.
I would try to do Brian Blessed right now, but people are trying to sleep. I'd wake the entire floor.
All right. So, final thoughts, Tim.
Final thoughts. I thought this was a fun romp through history, even though it was too interfering with history. The characters were good. Like the Aztecs, I thought, even if it wasn't accurate, were all like unique and identifiable characters. William Hartnell was good as the Doctor. Susan didn't have very much to do this episode, but that I think was like one of the few weak points of it. So, but I really enjoyed this story.
All right. Bill?
Okay. So this is a fairly good story. Definitely visually interesting. I do think it's kind of overrated. It's sometimes put up there as one of the best ever First Doctor episodes, and I don't see it that way. There is character growth for the Doctor, but not as much as in some episodes. And I particularly am not a fan of Barbara in this episode. I would hope a history teacher would know better. Even one from an empire-building civilization should still have some understanding of culture and history, and Barbara just flies in the face of all of it. Otherwise, so yeah, this definitely is definitely an episode with good points, but not as good as I think that some people make it out to be.
All right. Bat?
I think this is a fairly good episode. It's not perfection by any means, but in particular with the Aztecs themselves, they gave them at least a fair shake. They're not all just bloodthirsty barbarians, which it could have easily been something they might have accidentally done if they didn't do their research. The fact that they have nuances within multiple characters with this. The fact that we also we're still not sure on the costuming. That's still out there. That's gray area. But they definitely caught some of the art styles. If they didn't exactly copy them, they at least got the basic idea of them, it would seem. And otherwise, for what this is, it's a pretty decently put together plot. It's not overly fantastic or groundbreaking, but it's definitely a solid attempt.
All right. Thomas?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Bill on the sense that while I don't think this is bad at all, I do think that it could have been better, and is also like, wait, this is considered to be one of the best of Hartnell's era. Like, ooh, I would not go that far. I mean, this is no Pyramids of Mars. If you want to compare like what's considered like best of Tom Baker that actually holds up to a point. But like, I think it's actually considered one of the best like in general, not just First Doctor as well, which is like, I would not go that far. Like,
Yeah, that's a little
again,
extreme.
like it's not bad, and there's obviously going to be historical inaccuracies. It's 60s television, like not even
It's
just
the
Doctor
60s
Who,
period.
just
We
60s
were
television.
information
Yeah.
was not as widely well known as it has been now.
Yeah, I mean, God knows the rants that happened during the gunfighters, for example.
Oh yeah.
Like so, but yeah, like it's not. Yeah, it's like it's not bad. It's not like the best thing ever as well, but I don't regret watching it, and I could see myself potentially rewatching it in my own time. Um, so yeah, I would say this is at least worth checking out to form an opinion on.
All right. So overall, I like this episode. It's decent. It's watchable. I don't think it's perfect, but I don't think it's bad. The sets are nice, but it's a BBC period thing that they tend to get those right, even when it's not their culture, i.e., watch Marco Polo.
Yeah.
As long as it's not a Western.
No, it's not
As long
Western.
as it's not, as long as it has nothing to do with it, with the United States of America. Yes. The costume's nice. The backdrops and sets look nice. The acting is decent for 1960s BBC. Like I said, there is some film versus theater stylistic differences, but you deal with that. I think a couple of the characters were a little one-dimensional in my mind, but again, deal with what you can for that era. Yeah, overall, I think it's pretty good. I just don't think it's absolutely wonderful. All right, let's rate this puppy.
Okay, so I guess I'm starting off.
Yep.
I will give this episode 4.5.
4.5 from Tim. All right, Bill.
I don't want to go second on this one.
Too bad.
Commit. Commit.
I think I'm going to give it a 3.5.
Okay. Matt.
Currently, as it stands, I'm going to agree with Tim 4.5 until I hear for sure on any inconsistencies that might have happened.
Thomas.
Honestly, I was teetering to a point, but I'm gonna agree with Bill and give it a 3.5.
3.5. And I'm going to give it a 4.0 because, like I said, it's good, but not great. Which, by the way, makes me right.
I was just about to say, you just picked it so you could be right, didn't you?
No, I was already thinking that before Thomas's 3.5.
Lies and deceit.
No, I'm not kidding.
Also trying to keep consistency because he's only given 4.
I've only given 4s thus far, but I do believe a lot of this is the same quality. So I like it. I'll watch it, but I don't think it's great. And yeah, that'll put it at number 157 out of 340 things reviewed. It is on par with such wonderful episodes as A Good Man Goes to War, Attack of the Cybermen, The Runaway Bride, Vengeance on Varos, Heaven Sent, Terminus, The Invisible Enemy, Castrovalva, Planet of the Spiders, Rose, and Spyfall. It is better than Knock Knock, The Deadly Assassin, The Brain of Morbius, Colony in Space, Warrior's Gate, K9 and Company, Into the Dalek, etc. And is not as good as Oxygen, The Daemons, The Pilot, Can You Hear Me, It Takes You Away, Closing Time, The Girl Guide, Fires of Pompeii, etc. So 157 out of 340. That is all we have to say about the Aztecs.
Right.
Okay.
So please comment below on Twitch or Twitter, Twitch or YouTube. I guess you can also comment on Twitter. We could use the publicity. But yeah, comment below what you think of the episode, and if you know any more about Aztec history than we do. I know that people with that knowledge are out there. And yeah, what do you think of the Aztecs, and did you agree with our assessment?
All
And don't
right.
forget to like if you like, and subscribe or follow.
All right. So next week we continue with our finishing up of Heart and Hell episodes. We take a long overdue trip to the Sensphere with The Sensorites, written by Peter R. Newman, and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Carol Ann Ford as Susan, Jacqueline Hill as Barbara Wright, and William Russell as Ian Chesterton. See you all next week.
Bye bye.
Wobbly spaceship sets on the first episode. Mmm.